I'm Chicano, and this is Paradise. So today I want to talk to you about that serial killer again, Big Thumper. The guy that traumatized me, traumatized a lot of people in the hood, including my mom. That's that serial killer. By the time we had this interaction with him, he already had some bodies. He already had a handful of bodies on him. So whenever you saw that motherfucker, you knew there was trouble. You rarely saw that fool. Rarely saw him. But when you would see him, you know he was up to no good. And by that, I mean murder. Murder. He wasn't responsible for the taxing like other fools from 18th Street. He was responsible for putting in work. And so at this time, I wasn't part of the crew yet, you know, but I had two older homies that were part of the crew. And when I say crew, it's a little crew that we started, that we built, that I ended up taking over once the older homies graduated into 18th Street. I ended up taking over, but that's not what this story is about. This story is about Big Thumper and how the two older homies, one of them, his name was Pooh, and the other one's Jenko. They were maybe about 5 years older than me, so they were about 16, 17 at this time. And I still wasn't with the business. I still wasn't fooling around. I was just a kid that, you know, would hang around these dudes, the local thugs and shit, you know, because that's all I had in my neighborhood. And so the crew it started as a bud smoking crew, and then it progressed into graffiti. And when it progressed to graffiti, these motherfuckers went all in, Pooh and Jenko, and they were good. They had styles, you know, they used to represent. And so what they did on Bonnie Bray between Burlington and on 11th Street between Burlington and Bonnie Bray, they did a big old fucking block, big old block letters all over those you know those things that they pull down from businesses. It's like a metal thing that they shut. Well, they hit up on that. And one thing that you knew, that everybody knew, I don't know if it's like this in your neighborhood, in your barrio, but one thing that you knew that we were all told, and you know, that 18th Street hated and was a big no-no, was to graffiti in their neighborhood. That can get you killed, you know, because it's their hood. Nobody could write on there. Nobody could graffiti that place unless you're from the hood. So I don't know what the hell Pooh and Jenko were thinking. They were probably just young and dumb. And so he busted a big ass. To make it worse, they did it in gangster style. No mames, gangster style, right? And fucking, we weren't even a gang. And so fucking, they didn't care until Thumper came by. Woo! We were just chilling on the block in front of Pooh's house, and it was me, Pooh, and Jenko. And then we're kicking it, and we're like, holy fuck, here comes Thumper. And Thumper comes, and he's all like, because these fools hit up the crew, and then they put Pooh and Jenko, and he's all like, who's Pooh and who's Jenko? And Pooh and Jenko were there, and they're like, I don't know. And like, he looked at me, who's Pooh and who's Jenko? And I'm like, I don't know. And he asked, I'm gonna ask you guys one more time, who's Pooh and who's Jenko? We all knew he had the heater on him and he was about to dump. That was his thing. That was how he took care of business, man. 18th Street ran a tight ship, a very tight ship. I don't know how the barrios were where you grew up, you know, but 18th Street ran a tight shit, man. He had the heater on him. He didn't know 100% who was Pooh and who was Jenko, but I would think he had an idea because it was right there. The hit up was right in our neighborhood, which was part of 18th Street neighborhood, but it was only us that were there. And all of Pico Union, there was only a handful of blocks that actually kicked it outside on the streets, you know, like we did. And our block was, I would say, other than 18th Street, our block was major. Well, there was 18th Street and STC. STC was bangers, and but they were still not as deep as us, which is crazy. We were deep because we started off as playing football. We were into sports, all of us, when we were young. So we would always hang out on the street playing football, and that's why we were always deep. So I'm assuming this fool knew it was one of these guys. But you know, before he left, he's all like, tell Pooh and Janko that I'm looking for him, and if anybody writes in my neighborhood one more time, they're gonna get what's coming. We all knew what that meant. And so he left, and this motherfucker stoic. He's stoic. He doesn't like, he has no emotion. He doesn't come in here trying to scare you. He would come to talk to you. Well, this was actually the only time that he came to talk, but he was so stoic, you know. I can only imagine other times when he knows 100% certain who's who and what's what, he doesn't even talk. He probably just goes and, you know, does what he has to do. But when he came to talk to us, he was stoic. He was quiet. I mean, not quiet. He was just like, his demeanor was so chill. It was like relaxed, but it was so relaxed and chill that it was scary, because we knew he had the heater and our hearts were pounding. And then as soon as he left, we all looked at each other, fucking sweating. We're like, no mames, because the reputation this fool had, he would have just smoked all three of us and gone about his business, because he was on a killing spree. He would have smoked all three of us, gone about his business, and gone to smoke someone else the next day. Because this fool was putting in work on every fucking barrio around 18th Street neighborhood. That's what his job was. And we had a lot of neighborhoods around us. 18th Street neighborhood was fucking massive. And the beef that 18th Street had, they had a lot of beef, to be honest. Nobody liked them because they were so big and they were so bad, and they had a reputation to tax everybody and anybody and kill everybody and anybody. And but there was street criminals on one street, which was a faction, like I explained in my earlier video, of 18th Street. There were traqueteros that decided to do their own thing. And then there was Burlington, who used to be part of 18th Street, and then they decided, we don't want no part of this anymore, we're gonna do our own thing. And then there was drifters, harpies, 42nd Little Criminals, MS-13, all these barrios that were around. Dude, I could keep naming them, man. And so yeah, so he would have to put in work on all these barrios, you know, to maintain the reputation that 18th Street had. So that was my one and only run-in with Thumper, and it was enough to like fucking check me. It was enough. I'm so happy it happened at such a young age, because I was so heavy into mobbing, I was so heavy into graffiti, that if that wouldn't have happened, I wouldn't have had the discipline and the respect to not hit up in the barrio, right? Because I think that really saved me, because when I took over the crew, man, I was fucking mobbing all of LA, dude. All of LA. I have 6 arrests for mobbing, 6. And so it was an addiction, man. That's my one and only addiction that I had. Everything else I just experimented with, but that's something that I could not let go of. But that's neither here nor there. I'm gonna talk about that on another video. But this was about my one and only run-in with Thumper. And like I said, I really think that run-in saved my life, because he wasn't the only killer for 18th Street. There was more. And so if I would have hit up like, you know, Pooh and Janko did, then man, I would have been done. After that shit, that was nobody. We only hit up like on our block, and it was little hit ups with like mean streaks and shit like that. But we never actually mobbed it up with spray cans anymore, you know, because we knew what's what. And the crews that did do that, you know, ended up getting smoked or jumped into 18, or ended up becoming a barrio and go head up with 18. So that's my story, man, with my one and only run-in with Thumper. And I'm glad it happened, like I said. So enough of rambling on. I got shit to do today. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Stay tuned for more stories like this one, and comment, like, subscribe. If you guys subscribe, that'll help get my subscriber list up. Obviously, it'll also tell the algorithm that, you know, this is something that people want to listen to, and we can help spread the message, you know, of telling our story as people that grew up in the barrio, people that grew up in the hood, you know, firsthand, so that other people aren't telling our story, you know. And hey, just because you're Chicano and you grow up in the hood doesn't mean you have to be a fucking lowlife the rest of your life, right? Look at me. I'm out in paradise. But you got to decide for yourself what you want to do. Nobody's going to decide for you. Don't follow the crowd. Following the crowd leads you nowhere, or leads you to a place where you're going to end up being lost. Do you. The best way to do you: number one, pray. Number two, listen, and listen through your conscience. That's God speaking to you. And when you listen to what God's telling you to do, and you take steps towards what God is guiding you through, that's where you end up being satisfied. That's where you end up being happy. And that's where you end up being who you truly are destined to be. Like I said, I've always thought that this was a good idea to do my YouTube, but I never actually started doing it. You know, I never went out there and do it, because I'm like, who the fuck's gonna want to hear a story about fucking a Chicano in LA, you know? But who knows, maybe you want to hear this story, you know what I mean? Not only that, but the story of how I came up, you know what I'm saying? How I came up by working hard, you know, investing, which if you guys want to know about that, follow my Instagram, which is richieblogs.eth, and, you know, see what's up. But this is it for now. Stay tuned for more. Hope you enjoyed it. I'm out.